The massive holographic screen flickered in the United Nations Assembly Hall. Captain Mike Anderson stood at attention, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he watched the alien delegation materialize. Their ship, a sleek vessel 20 miles long, hung in Earth's orbit like a silver needle against the black fabric of space. Ambassador Gray stepped forward, his tall, slender form towering over the human representatives. The alien's silvery skin reflected the chamber's lights, and his four eyes blinked in an unsettling pattern. Behind him, 6 other alien representatives from the Galactic Council shifted restlessly, their expressions showing poorly hidden amusement. So, Ambassador Gray's translator conveyed his words with a hint of mockery. This is the species that thinks they're ready for galactic membership. The one still using. What do you call it? Ah yes, rocket fuel. Quiet laughter rippled through the alien delegation. Anderson felt his jaw tighten, but maintained his composure. In his earpiece, Dr. Anna Wells whispered, "Let them laugh, Captain. They don't know about Europa." The ambassador pulled up a hologram of Earth's latest space vessel. This primitive construct barely reaches your own moon. We crossed 16,000 light years to reach you using our lowest grade ships. He turned to his colleagues. Perhaps we should show them real space technology. With a gesture, he projected an image of their fleet. Thousands of ships filled the view, each one bristling with weapons that could crack planets. The human audience gasped, but Anderson noticed something they didn't. The aliens' technology all operated on the same basic principles. 3-dimensional space, limited by the ordinary laws of physics. Your species has 2 choices, Ambassador Gray continued, his tone dripping with condescension. Accept our guidance and protection, becoming a client race of the Galactic Council, or he let the threat hang in the air. Anderson stepped forward, his voice steady. And if we wish to join as equals. The chamber erupted with alien laughter. One of the delegates actually fell over, their body shaking with mirth. Ambassador Gray wiped his eyes with a long, slender finger. Equals? He managed between chuckles. Your fastest ship would take 50,000 years to reach our closest colony. Your weapons are little more than pointed sticks. Your understanding of space travel is like watching fish discuss climbing trees. In the back of the chamber, Dr. Wells smiled slightly. She held a tablet showing live feeds from Europa, where deep beneath the ice, humanity's real masterpiece neared completion. The Terra Nova wasn't visible on any ordinary sensors. It existed partially in dimensions the aliens didn't even know they could access. Anderson maintained his diplomatic pose. We appreciate your concern for our development, Ambassador. However, humanity has always surprised those who underestimate us. Surprised. Gray's translator couldn't quite capture his snort of derision. Your species still fights over patches of dirt on your own world. You've barely mastered fission power. Your computers are quantum toys. As the alien delegation continued their mockery, Anderson's earpiece crackled again. Captain, Dr. Wells whispered, Test 47 just completed successfully. The 7D drive is fully operational. Anderson allowed himself a small smile. Let them laugh. Let them show off their massive ships and their weapons. They were like master chess players mocking a beginner, not realizing they were actually playing against a master of 5-dimensional chess. We request 1 month, Anderson announced, interrupting Gray's latest jibe about Earth's primitive satellite network. 1 month to prepare our response to your generous offer. The aliens exchanged amused glances. Ambassador Gray spread his arms in an exaggerated gesture of magnanimity. Take 2. Perhaps in that time, you'll manage to reach Mars without burning up. As the alien delegation's holograms faded away, Anderson turned to leave the chamber. He caught Dr. Wells' eye across the room, and they shared a knowing look. In the secure facility beneath Europa's ice, the Terra Nova's 7D drive hummed with power that defied conventional physics. Humanity had figured out something the aliens, for all their advanced technology, had missed. The universe wasn't limited to 3 dimensions, or even 4. Let them laugh for now. In 1 month, the laughter would stop. The real question wasn't whether humanity would survive. The question was whether the Galactic Council was ready for what humanity was about to show them about the true nature of space, time, and reality itself. 3 weeks had passed since the first contact, and Europa's underground base hummed with activity. Dr. Anna Wells stood before the Terra Nova, her life's work, watching as technicians made final adjustments to its gleaming hull. The ship didn't look impressive by alien standards. It was barely larger than an old Earth aircraft carrier. But size didn't matter when you could bend 7 dimensions. "How's she looking, Doc?" Captain Anderson's voice made her turn. He had dark circles under his eyes, evidence of endless preparation meetings. "The 7D drive is stable," she replied, tapping her tablet. "We can now shift through all 7 spatial dimensions without power fluctuation. Want to see something cool?" She pressed a button, and a section of the Terra Nova simply vanished. Not with a flash or a sound. It was just gone. Anderson whistled. "Where did it go?" "Everywhere and nowhere." Wells grinned. "It's still there, just existing in dimensions 4 through 7. The aliens can't detect it because their sensors only work in 3 dimensions. They're like people trying to find a helicopter by dragging nets through the ocean." Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency broadcast. Every screen in the facility lit up with Ambassador Gray's face. The aliens' usual mockery was gone, replaced by cold authority. "People of Earth," he began, "your time for consideration is being cut short. Our council has decided that your planet's resources are too valuable to risk losing to your primitive wars. We will arrive in 7 Earth days to begin the integration process. Resistance will result in immediate planetary sterilization." The message ended. Anderson's communicator immediately buzzed with a priority call from Admiral Reed at Earth Defense Command. "They're not waiting the full month." Reed's voice was tense. "Long-range sensors show their fleet is already moving. Thousands of ships, Mike. Biggest fleet we've ever seen on their scans." Wells looked at her tablet, fingers flying over calculations. "We need 3 more days to complete final testing. The 7D drive works, but we haven't done a full power trial." Anderson squared his shoulders. "What happens if we use it without full testing?" "Best case, we save Earth. Worst case, we tear a hole in reality." Wells paused. "Though to be fair, that might solve our alien problem too." Through another window, they could see Jupiter's massive form hanging above Europa's icy surface. A flash of light caught their attention. More alien ships appearing from their faster-than-light travel. The advanced scout force. "Dr. Cooper," Wells called to her research partner. "Begin final launch preparations. We're moving up the timeline." The base erupted into controlled chaos. Teams of engineers and scientists rushed through final checks. The Terra Nova's hull began to shimmer as they tested different dimensional frequencies. Anderson watched the ship's transformation. Sometimes it looked solid, sometimes like a ghost, and sometimes it seemed to extend in directions his eyes couldn't follow. "Will the crew be safe?" Wells nodded. "The human brain is amazing, Captain. We're the only known species that can naturally perceive and process higher dimensions, even if we can't see them directly. It's why we can appreciate abstract art, visualize complex mathematics, and imagine things that shouldn't be possible. The aliens think 3-dimensionally because that's all they can perceive. We've always thought beyond those limits." Through the base's sensors, they watched more alien ships arrive. The advance force was taking up attack positions around Mars. Their weapons could reduce Earth to ash in minutes. "They're broadcasting again," a communications officer called out. Ambassador Gray's image appeared once more. This time, he wasn't alone. The full Galactic Council stood with him, tall, elegant, and utterly convinced of their superiority. "Your primitive sensors must see our fleet by now," Gray said. "We're detecting energy signatures suggesting you're preparing some form of resistance." "How?" "Amusing. To show our benevolence, we'll give you one last chance. Surrender now, and will ensure your species survives as our servants." Anderson looked at Wells. She nodded. The Terra Nova was as ready as it would ever be. "Send the response," Anderson ordered. The message was simple. "The Earth respectfully declines your offer. We'll demonstrate why in 3 days." As the alien laughter echoed through the command center one last time, Wells whispered to her ship, "They won't be laughing long." The Terra Nova's crew gathered in the ship's main briefing room. 40 of Earth's finest, chosen not just for their skills, but for their ability to think beyond normal limits. Captain Anderson stood at the front with Dr. Wells, ready to explain what they'd all been training for. "Show them," Anderson nodded to Wells. She dimmed the lights and activated a hologram in the center of the room. "What you're about to see will change how you view reality itself." A hologram showed a cube first, simple, three-dimensional. Then it began to unfold in impossible ways, extending into directions that shouldn't exist. "The aliens out there," Wells pointed upward, "think they're masters of space travel, but they're like fish swimming in a pond, thinking they're kings of the world while being completely unaware of the sky above." She expanded the hologram. "We humans have something they don't, the ability to perceive and understand higher dimensions. When a child imagines a fantasy world, when an artist paints an impossible scene, when a mathematician solves equations that shouldn't work in normal space, we're actually touching these higher dimensions without realizing it." The crew watched, fascinated, as the hologram showed their ship. "The Terra Nova doesn't just fly through space," Wells continued. "It exists in 7 dimensions at once. The aliens can only see and work with 3 dimensions. That's why they think we're primitive. They're looking at a shadow of what we've built." Dr. Cooper stepped forward with a small metal cube. "Watch this demonstration." He placed the cube on a table. At first, it looked normal. Then, with a slight hum from a device in his hand, the cube began to change. Parts of it seemed to disappear, while other parts appeared to extend in directions that hurt to look at. "That cube is now existing in 6 dimensions," Wells explained. "To the alien sensors, it would appear to simply vanish. They literally cannot perceive where it goes. But our minds," she smiled, "our wonderful human minds can at least grasp the concept, even if our eyes struggle to see it directly." One of the crew members raised her hand. "Is that why we had all those strange training simulations? The impossible puzzle rooms?" "Exactly," Anderson answered. "We needed people who could adapt to thinking in higher dimensions. Every one of you scored off the charts in spatial reasoning and abstract thinking." Wells pulled up new diagrams. "The aliens use wormholes to travel faster than light. They punch through 3-dimensional space like a needle through cloth. But we," her eyes gleamed, "we can fold space itself. Imagine an ant walking across a piece of paper. To get from one end to the other, it has to walk the whole length. But if you, in your 3 dimensions, fold the paper, the ant's destination is now right next to its starting point." "And we're doing this across 7 dimensions?" another crew member asked. "Yes. The 7D drive lets us fold space in ways the aliens can't even imagine. Their weapons won't work on us because we'll only be partially existing in their dimensions. Their shields are useless because we can simply shift around them through higher dimensions." Anderson took over. "But our greatest advantage is this. They don't believe it's possible. Their entire civilization is built on the idea that they understand everything about space travel. They've never encountered a species that could perceive higher dimensions, let alone manipulate them." The hologram showed the alien fleet now gathering near Mars. Thousands of ships, each one carrying enough firepower to level a continent. "In 2 days," Wells said, looking at each crew member, "we're going to shock the galaxy. But remember, this isn't about revenge or showing off. We're going to demonstrate our power, yes, but our real goal is to show them there's more to the universe than they imagined." She gestured to the Terra Nova's hull visible through the briefing room's window. "This ship isn't just humanity's greatest achievement. It's proof that imagination, that uniquely human ability to think beyond the obvious, is the greatest force in the universe." The crew sat in silence, letting it all sink in. They were about to change the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. And somewhere up there, an alien fleet was still laughing, completely unaware that their understanding of reality was about to be turned inside out, quite literally. The moment had arrived. Deep beneath Europa's icy surface, the Terra Nova's engines hummed to life. Not with the roar of conventional rockets, but with a strange, deep vibration that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "All systems check," Dr. Cooper announced from his station. 7D drive is running at optimal levels. Captain Anderson sat in the command chair, his hands resting lightly on the controls. The crew worked with focused precision, each one knowing their role in what would soon become humanity's most important moment. "The alien fleet is broadcasting," the communications officer reported. They're laughing at us, sir. Their sensors detected our power-up sequence." Ambassador Gray's voice filled the bridge, dripping with amusement. "Are you actually powering up a ship? Our sensors show something smaller than our routine cargo vessels. Please tell me this isn't your grand response." Dr. Wells smiled as she made final adjustments to the 7D drive. "They can only detect our three-dimensional footprint," she explained to the crew. "To them, we look tiny. Just wait until we unfold." Anderson opened a channel to Earth Defense Command. "Admiral Reed, we're ready to launch. How are things up there?" "The alien fleet has surrounded Earth," Reed replied. "Over 5,000 ships. They're still broadcasting their demands. And, well, mostly they're just mocking us now. Some of them are taking bets on how quickly we'll surrender." "Record everything," Anderson ordered his crew. "The galaxy should remember this day." The launch countdown began. Unlike traditional spaceships, the Terra Nova didn't need to burst through an atmosphere or fight gravity. As the 7D drive engaged, the ship simply shifted. Europa's ice cave seemed to bend around them. For a moment, reality itself appeared to hiccup. Then the Terra Nova was in space, appearing as if by magic next to Jupiter's massive form. "First phase successful," Wells announced. "We're maintaining stability across all 7 dimensions, ready to proceed to Earth on your command, Captain." Anderson took a deep breath. "Let's give them a show. Begin dimensional shift sequence." The Terra Nova moved, not in the way other ships moved through space, but in a way that defied normal physics. It was like watching a piece of paper fold through an Escher painting. One moment they were near Jupiter, the next they were approaching Mars. The alien fleet's reaction was immediate. "What trickery is this?" Ambassador Gray's voice had lost its mocking tone. "Our sensors show impossible readings. Full dimensional manifestation," Wells commanded. "Let them see what they're dealing with." The Terra Nova began to unfold. Parts of it extended in directions that normal space couldn't contain. The ship didn't grow larger in the conventional sense. Instead, it seemed to exist in multiple places at once, its form challenging the very concept of physical geometry. Through the view screens, they could see alien crews pressing against their windows, staring in bewilderment at something their minds couldn't properly process. The laughter had stopped completely now. "We're receiving thousands of scanning attempts," Cooper reported. "Their sensors can't make sense of us. Some of their computers are actually crashing from trying to model our configuration." Anderson opened a channel to the entire alien fleet. "This is Captain Michael Anderson of the Earth vessel Terra Nova. We appreciate the entertainment you've provided with your mockery. Now, allow us to demonstrate why humans have always looked to the stars and seen more than just points of light." He nodded to Wells. She engaged the full power of the 7D drive. The Terra Nova's final transformation began. The ship now existed simultaneously across 7 dimensions, parts of it visible in normal space, while other sections seemed to fade into impossible angles and distances. "By all the cosmic laws," Ambassador Gray's voice shook. "What are you?" "We are human," Anderson replied simply. "And we're about to show you what that truly means." The Terra Nova moved forward, And for the first time in galactic history, a ship sailed through dimensions that most species didn't even know existed. The alien fleet's weapons powered up, but they were about to learn a harsh lesson about challenging a species that had mastered the art of thinking beyond limits. The alien fleet opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked through space toward the Terra Nova. Captain Anderson remained calm in his command chair, watching the incoming barrage with steady eyes. "Should I engage evasive maneuvers, sir?" the helm officer asked. "No need," Anderson replied. "Dr. Wells, show them why." Wells pressed her hands against the control panel, its surface glowing with impossible geometries. Shifting to sixth dimension in 3, 2, 1. The massive barrage of alien weapons passed harmlessly through the Terra Nova. Not around it, not over it, through it. The ship existed partially in dimensions the weapons couldn't touch, like trying to shoot a shadow. Impossible. Ambassador Gray's voice cracked with panic. "All ships, concentrate fire. Use the planet killer beams." The alien fleet's largest ships opened their main weapon ports. Beams of energy powerful enough to crack planets lanced out. Wells simply smiled and adjusted the 7D drive settings. The Terra Nova's form rippled, parts of it seeming to fold through spaces that didn't exist in normal reality. "Dr. Cooper," Anderson called, "begin the demonstration sequence." Cooper nodded and activated a series of commands. The Terra Nova pulsed with energy that radiated across all 7 dimensions. Suddenly, small sections of the alien ships began to vanish. What are you doing to our vessels?" Gray demanded, real fear in his voice now. "Just moving a few parts into the 6th dimension," Wells explained over the comm channel. "Don't worry, we can bring them back. Probably." To demonstrate, she reversed the process. The missing sections reappeared. The alien crews stared in horror as their supposedly invincible ships were taken apart and reassembled by forces they couldn't even comprehend. "That was just a taste," Anderson announced to the fleet. "The Terra Nova can shift any object through any of the 7 spatial dimensions we've mastered. Your weapons can't hurt what they can't properly hit, and your shields can't block what moves through dimensional spaces they don't cover." The alien fleet began to retreat, their tight formation breaking apart in panic. Some ships tried to jump to faster than light speed, but Wells was ready for that too. "Deploying dimensional anchor," she reported. The Terra Nova released a pulse of energy that rippled through multiple dimensions. The alien ships found themselves unable to activate their FTL drives. The space around them had been folded in ways their technology couldn't navigate. "Stop, please." Gray's voice had lost all its former arrogance. "We surrender. Just, what are you doing to reality itself?" Anderson stood up from his chair and walked to the front of the bridge. Through the view screen, he could see the alien ships drifting, their crews trying desperately to understand what was happening to them. "Reality," he said calmly, "is far more complex than you imagined. Humanity didn't advance just in 3 dimensions like your civilizations did. We looked further, thought deeper, imagined bigger. Every child who ever dreamed of impossible things, every artist who painted realities that couldn't exist, every scientist who dared to think beyond conventional physics, they were all touching these higher dimensions without knowing it." The Terra Nova moved through the alien fleet, its form continuing to shift and change in ways that defied normal geometry. Some of the alien crew could be seen abandoning their posts, their minds unable to process what they were witnessing. "Send the final message," Anderson ordered. Dr. Wells activated the ship's full-dimensional display. To the alien fleet, it appeared as if reality itself was being folded like paper, twisted like ribbons, and reshaped like clay. The Terra Nova existed everywhere and nowhere, its form a testament to humanity's mastery over dimensions that other races had never even dreamed of accessing. "Remember this moment," Anderson's voice echoed across all frequencies. "Remember that the species you mocked as primitive just rewrote your understanding of the universe. Remember that humans don't just think outside the box. We can fold that box through 7 dimensions and turn it inside out. The alien fleet hung motionless in space, their mighty weapons useless, their advanced technology rendered obsolete by a single Earth ship that had dared to voyage beyond the boundaries of conventional space itself. Silence filled the space around Earth. The alien fleet hung motionless, their mighty engines quiet, their weapons powered down. On the Terra Nova's bridge, Captain Anderson watched as Ambassador Gray's image appeared on the main screen. The alien's silver skin had lost its shine, and all 4 of his eyes showed something new: respect. The Galactic Council requests. Gray paused, struggling with words he'd never expected to say. We request mercy from Earth. Anderson looked at Dr. Wells. She nodded and brought up the ship's readings. Their fleet is completely surrounded by our dimensional field. We could move their entire armada into the 6th dimension with one command. But we won't, Anderson said firmly, because that's not who we are. He opened a channel to all ships. This is Captain Anderson. In the past month, you came to Earth believing us primitive. You mocked our technology, threatened our world, and laughed at our efforts. Now you've seen what humanity is truly capable of. The Terra Nova shifted again, its form rippling through multiple dimensions. Parts of it seemed to dance through impossible spaces, a display of power that made several alien ships back away in fear. But Earth doesn't seek revenge, Anderson continued. We don't want to destroy or dominate. What we want is understanding. Dr. Cooper stepped forward, holding a data crystal. Captain, the dimensional physics package is ready. Basic principles only. Enough to show them the doorway without giving them the keys. Anderson nodded. Ambassador Gray, we're transmitting data to your fleet. It contains fundamental information about dimensional theory. Not enough to build your own 7D drive, but enough to help you understand what you witnessed today. Gray's image showed confusion. You're sharing knowledge with us, after we threatened your world. Knowledge should be shared. Wells spoke up. Earth has unlocked secrets of the universe that your people never imagined. We could keep this power to ourselves, use it to rule the galaxy. Instead, we choose to help you grow. Through the view screens, they could see alien scientists already poring over the transmitted data. Their expressions changed from fear to wonder as they began to grasp the basics of dimensional physics. Amazing, one alien scientist broadcast. Their mathematics, it's beautiful. They see connections we never even imagined. Anderson smiled. Consider this a first step. Earth is willing to join the Galactic Council. Not as conquerors, not as servants, but as teachers. We'll help your species understand the higher dimensions, show you how to expand your thinking beyond 3-dimensional limits. The alien fleet began powering up their engines, but not to fight. They were forming an honor guard, creating a path for the Terra Nova to move through. The Council. Gray's voice was heavy with emotion. The Council acknowledges Earth's superiority in dimensional physics. We withdraw all threats and demands. Instead, we formally request Earth's guidance in exploring these new frontiers of science. Wells touched her control panel, and the Terra Nova's dimensional field relaxed. The alien ships found themselves able to move freely again. Not a single one powered up their weapons. Send word to your council, Anderson commanded. Tell them humanity is ready to share our understanding of the universe. But remember this day. Remember what happened when you judged a species by their apparent limitations rather than their potential. The Terra Nova began to fold space around itself, preparing to return to Earth. As it did, several alien ships' sensors recorded its movement, their crews watching in awe as the human vessel manipulated reality in ways their best scientists were only beginning to understand. One last thing, Ambassador, Anderson added. The next time you encounter a seemingly primitive species, remember Earth. Remember how quickly laughter can turn to amazement when you discover what lies beneath the surface. As the Terra Nova vanished into dimensions, the aliens were just learning existed. A new age began. Humanity had not just proven their worth to the galaxy. They had opened the door to a revolution in how all species understood the very fabric of space itself. The day of laughter was over. The age of wonder had begun. 1 year had passed since the day humanity revealed their mastery of dimensional physics to the galaxy. The Terra Nova floated in high Earth orbit, its form still shifting gently through multiple dimensions as Captain Anderson stood in its observation deck with Dr. Wells and Ambassador Gray. "I still remember how much we laughed at your ships," Gray said, his silver skin reflecting Earth's blue glow. "Now look at us. My scientists spend their days trying to understand how a human child can imagine worlds that shouldn't be possible." Through the window, they could see the new Galactic Council headquarters taking shape. Unlike traditional space stations, this one existed partially in higher dimensions. Its architecture defying normal physics in ways that celebrated humanity's gift to the galaxy. "The latest report from the Joint Research Team is promising," Wells said, checking her tablet. 3 species have already developed basic fourth-dimensional sensors. They're like children discovering there's more to the world than length and width. Anderson smiled, remembering the past year's changes. The Terra Nova was no longer unique. Earth had built a small fleet of 7D ships, but they weren't weapons of war. These ships carried scientists, explorers, and teachers to every corner of the galaxy. "We've discovered something interesting," Gray mentioned, all 4 eyes showing excitement. "When we study human art from your history, these things you call abstract paintings, our sensors detect trace patterns of higher dimensional energy. Your artists were somehow touching these dimensions through pure imagination." "That's humanity's real gift," Wells replied. "We never stopped dreaming of impossible things. Every time someone said, 'That can't work,' or 'That's not possible,' we asked why not, and kept pushing." Their conversation was interrupted by alert. A new ship was arriving, but not through normal space. Reality seemed to bend and fold, and a vessel from a distant galaxy appeared. Its crew had been among the first to learn from Earth's dimensional physics lessons. "They'd done it," Gray whispered in awe. "They've built their own dimensional drive." Anderson opened a channel to the new arrival. "Welcome to Earth. We've been expecting you." The alien captain's response was filled with joy. "Thanks to your teachings, we've taken our first steps into the higher dimensions. Our children now draw pictures of spaces that can't exist in 3 dimensions. They're already seeing things we never could." Wells checked the ship's readings. "They've managed to access 4 dimensions stably. Not bad for a year's work." "To think," Gray mused, "a year ago, we thought we were the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Now my spacecraft designers take art classes to help them understand dimensional engineering." Through another window, they could see more ships arriving. Some used traditional engines, others were experimenting with basic dimensional technology. Earth had become the center of a scientific revolution that was changing how every species viewed the universe. "Look there," Anderson pointed to a group of alien children visiting the station on a school trip. They were watching an Earth artist demonstrate abstract painting. The children's eyes were wide as the artist's work seemed to flicker between dimensions, their young minds already grasping concepts their parents' generation had thought impossible. "That's the real victory," Wells said softly. "Not proving our power, but sharing our way of seeing the universe. Every species has the potential to understand these dimensions. They just needed someone to show them it was possible." Ambassador Gray stepped closer to the window. "The old council thought power came from weapons and territory. You showed us it comes from imagination and understanding. Now, when we find new civilizations, our first question isn't how can we conquer them, but what might they see that we don't?" The Terra Nova's engines hummed softly, their vibrations rippling through 7 dimensions of space. Below them, Earth turned peacefully, its night side glittering with lights. Humanity had not only survived their first contact with galactic civilization, they had transformed it. "So," Anderson asked with a smile, "who's laughing now?" "Nobody," Gray replied seriously. "We're all too busy learning, growing, and exploring dimensions we never knew existed. And it all started because we laughed at a species that could see what we couldn't. As the sun rose over Earth's horizon, its light caught the Terra Nova's hull, making it shimmer across multiple dimensions, a constant reminder that in the vast universe, the greatest power wasn't the ability to destroy or conquer, but the courage to imagine the impossible and make it real.